Welcome. We're coming to the end of January. I guess it's actually tomorrow. And so I'm going to recap the books I read because the hardest part about figuring out the books you're going to read is even knowing what you should read. So I can make some recommendations today. Now, a bunch of these I don't have with me because they were from the library or they were digital copies, and I just don't have them right on hand right now. So let's go over the 10 books that I read January 2024. If you like this type of stuff, you can join me at curtismchale.ca. And if you go to curtismchale.ca/book-club, you can join the book club where what are we reading? We read Right Thing Right Now, which is one of the books we'll cover. And we're reading Thinking in Systems for February. And then I think we're reading A System for Writing, I believe it is, by Bob Dotto in March. So you can join me there. Buckle up. Let's dig into the books I read in January 2025. First off, Decluttered by Jenny Albertini. This was a book about clutter. Albertini drops Marie Kondo tons because she trained with her, and honestly, that was like a big thing where I just kept saying, really? Like, you told me this like 30 times. I'm not sure why you're telling me this again. I don't really remember where I got Decluttered from. I think it was a blog post, and it had a good quote. And so I thought, hey, I'll read this book. It sounds great. It was at my library. Perfect. Picked it up. It really wasn't what I was expecting, though. Albertini has a background in the HIV/AIDS epidemic, looking around the world, really, working with multiple countries as a U.S. advisor to help with their issues with HIV and AIDS. Her focus on the healthcare industry really shows as she talks a lot about like how clutter affects your personal health, like your mental health and actually your physical health. Overall, there's a lot of philosophy, not a lot of meat in the book, so I'm going to say do not recommend this. And then I also read 2 books, really small ones actually, by Maneet Paul Singh. So the first one is Just One More Chapter, and the second one is Supercharge Your Reading. They're both really short guidebooks, really, on how to supercharge your reading. In the one, specifically, that one focuses on Kindle, how the Kindle is so good. The big thing I think he misses in that one is that he says that's so good, like Readwise will take all your notes for you, and you don't even have to worry about it. And say like it's way too much work to transfer them from a notebook over to your note system or to any system. But he also doesn't really take his notes from Kindle, at least as far as I read in the book, and do anything with them. They're just there, and he can search them through Readwise, which I really think misses a big point in taking notes is the filtering factor, right? I take actually a lot of highlights in my Kobo or my Kindle, depending on what I'm reading. All right, Kobo works with libraries up in Canada. That's why I say Kobo. And so looking at that and then really needing to process your notes is the actual important part. And he misses that a lot and just saying like it'll be easy and you can read more. But I would actually vote for, say, reading less, but reading well, as opposed to just reading more. That's a fallacy. So we'll talk about that at some point in the future in my writing, which you can find again, curtismchale.ca. And the other one was Just One More Chapter. It was a short book on how to make sure you have a book with you, just to read more, how to do it, some strategies and tactics. Nothing like revolutionary, but it was a good guidebook nonetheless. So both of those you'll find again linked on Amazon, because that's where you can find them. You can't find them anywhere else. Third, A Better Place on Earth fourth, A Better Place on Earth by Andrew McLeod. McLeod, I think. This was specifically looking at BC and BC's equality. It looked at poverty, basic income, housing affordability from the perspective of British Columbia, specifically in 2016. Right, looked at Christy Clark was our premier then, and so her saying, oh, we need, her being just barely out of the top 1% earners in the province, but also saying we don't have money to help anyone else, right? While many of the politicians cited in there voted for policies, brought in policies that supported their children, right? One was we need to bring foreign doctors in, put forward by a lady who had a foreign a child that did not qualify for a local medical school in Canada, but was able to get it somewhere else and wanted to bring it back. So, but they didn't have money for deal with homelessness, deal with the drug addiction. They had money to support these doctors, these already fairly affluent people. It was a good look at how a lot of the stuff I've read about really applies in the BC context specifically. And it put numbers beside a lot of the stuff I totally expected. Next, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I didn't actually read this copy. I read a digital copy of it. I read this actually from Maneet Paul's book club, which you can find linked as well in the blog post. And I was actually surprised. This is my second reading of the book. I'll actually probably get rid of my physical copy and just keep the digital copy. I was surprised because the last time I read it was, 7 or 8 years ago. Maybe not that long, but quite a while ago. And my view on a lot of productivity books has changed since then. Where I used to really get a lot out of them, I look at them now and I'm like, it's like a white dude saying this is what white dudes should do, without addressing any equality or anything else that helps I guess, keep other people down, how the systems make it harder for anyone who's not a white dude or somebody already affluent to get ahead, and these books just assume you're already in this field so you can get ahead. Now, he does a little bit of acknowledging of that, so that's good. But I still feel like there's definitely some of in that. Now, I guess their market for any productivity book is someone who has the time, and in case of purchasing power, to be able to read. So that's their market is already reasonably affluent. Now, I did go through this book and get some, again, good tidbits, or I guess reminders to apply, right? I took the cookies and I take enough cookies out for the day for the family, and then I put the rest in the freezer so that if you got to get them, I actually have to go to the freezer. It's not that hard. They thaw out pretty quick and I can eat them, but it, let me lose a couple pounds and just control my enormous cookie consumption, because I am known as the cookie monster around the house. So overall, I actually think it's a good book. It stood up again. I will read it probably again at some point in the future, at least as a quick read, just to get some reminders about what I probably should be doing in my life, at least as far as establishing habits. Final nonfiction book was Right Thing Right Now by Ryan Holiday. This was done for book club. Again, curtismcgill.ca/book-club. You can find that there, and you can join us for Thinking in Systems next month. This is a philosophy book, really. He's taking Stoic philosophy, and this one is on justice. It was good. I think that all of Ryan Holiday's books that I've read have been really good. I can come back to them later because they are vague enough. They're not like specific tactics books. They're on principles, right? Can you be just when other people are not? He highlights a lot in the, I'm going to say Roman time, Greek time. I'm not actually sure. The Stoic philosophy time that he is talking about, where there were very corrupt provinces and people were expected to be corrupt if you were there, but talking about, specific philosophers who managed to maintain their integrity according to history in the midst of all this corruptness. And, we can see that today. There's lots of corruptness going around right now in the world. And can we maintain our just and our right action in the face of this corruptness? That's a good question. And also, he brought up one good point that when we're fighting for something good, so let's say the equality of LGBTQ trans rights, for it, good. If there's anything uncomfortable in that, for me, that's a me problem, not a problem outside of this that I need to, see less of. Trying to use this problem, less LGBTQ trans members of society. That's a me problem that I need to work on. But he's saying when you step away from good things and you're fighting for justice because it's exhausting, because we'll say the other side has exhausted you not only taken somebody away fighting, you've also showed them that you can that they can exhaust you, and you'll just stop fighting. So it's like a double whammy of giving good or giving up on a good cause. Now I look at that and I think that as I look around at social media now, or now on Mastodon, that it's exhausting to see so much outrage, so much justified outrage, because the policies being put in by, honestly, the Trump government, we're not going to sugarcoat this, are pretty terrible. In fact, they're very terrible, villainizing certain communities, specifically the trans community, to make them the villains of everything, while they continue, really to pick the pockets of the people that voted them in, via anti-union policies, anti-competition policies, by letting business run rampant without any governmental checks. But they're, saying, hey, we're dealing with trans people, so you should vote for us still. So how do I continue to support the community that I think should be supported, while still trying to step back for my own mental health reasons so that I don't get overwhelmed by the outrage, by the entirely justified outrage? That's a question I'm going to be dealing with. Now, the final two books are fiction. First off is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I see this book all over. It is a dragon rider magic book, right? Fantasy, which, something I'm all down with. Right? I see a big stack of Brandon Sanderson back here. And my daughter wanted it, and I said, great, sure. We bought it for her on Kindle with her new Kindle, and I grabbed it, downloaded it, put it on my Kobo, and read. It's a good book. I very much enjoyed it. It's funny, there's the beginning, all the build-up, and then right near the end you realize it's actually kind of more romantasy, or romance fantasy, with two fairly steamy sections right near the end. I gotta admit, as a dad, I read that and was like, my 14-year-old daughter is reading this too. And at the same time, this discussion probably goes on at school, so whatever. At least I know what she is reading, and I'm not concerned about it, even though As a dad, it probably makes me feel mildly uncomfortable. Mildly uncomfortable to know my daughter is reading this, or honestly, any child. Forget just being a daughter. My children would be reading this. But it's a good book. I liked it. I am looking forward to the second one. I'm just kind of waiting on her to finish the first one, and then I will buy the second one so that she can read it, I can read it, and then, yeah, that's it. And then I also did a second read of Anxious People by Frederick Backman, who I didn't realize, somewhere on my shelf back here, also wrote A Man Called Ove, Tom Hanks movie. Excellent movie. Excellent book. And Anxious People is also excellent and just a little bit weirder. Right? Involves bunnies and underpants, hidden bank robbers. There's talk of suicide in it, so, watch out for that as a content warning. But it also has some really good insights into real life. Right, as we look at, I'll actually read the quote off my screen here. Parenting. And the quote is, "Do you know what the worst thing is about being a parent? That you're always judged by your worst moments. You can do a million things right, but if you do one single thing wrong, you're forever the parent who was checking his phone in the park when your child was hit in the head by a swing. We don't take our eyes off them for days at a time, but then you read just one text message, and it's as if all your best moments never happened." And there's numerous quotes like this that I sat back and think, that seems like a very true quote in life. That you can do lots of good stuff, and you're often judged by the single bad thing you did. So I will read this again. It's my second read already. I will probably read it a third time. I actually want to read more of Frederick Backman's stuff. I'll read A Man Called Ove on my shelf again. I've already read that once. And I would like to look at the other stuff that he's written as well. So it's up for you. Did you read any good books in January 2025? I was going to say 4, but 2025, that I should be informed of, that you think I'd like based on, even what you've had here? Like I said, I would not recommend, out of all this, Decluttered, Just One More Chapter, and Supercharge Your Reading. They're quick reads if you really want to. Better Place on Earth, if you're in the BC context, Canadian context, and want to have a better idea about inequality, great. Atomic Habits was good. Right Thing Right Now, good. And then my 2 fiction, Fourth Wing and Anxious People, both good. There's really one book I do not recommend this month, although already having quit a book, scheduling it for February, The Black Swan, which I'm not going to recommend. Stay tuned for that. Coming up next month when I recap February's reading. Have an awesome day.